We'll start with this. I'm going to start with this every class, just kind of help us remember the minor prophets. What type of order? Chronological. Again, the first two minor prophets. A lot of scholars have them further way down. It would be near the bottom, but a lot of scholars have them at the beginning. So that's where I'm going to have them. So anybody remember the first acronym? I know my wife does because she's looking on the back to see.
Only Jesus justify all hopeful members.
That is the second one. The first one.
Only Jews journey across high mountains.
That's exactly right. Only Jews journey across high mountains. And then my wife said the one that I like. I like both of them, but I like this one more because there's Jesus in it. Only Jesus justifies all hopeful members. And we have a new one for the six minor prophets that we're studying this quarter. It's a very good one, probably as good as the second one up there on the first six. And I know Kyle knows it because he submitted this last week, and it's pretty good. We had a contest of who would win. This would be up there probably. But you guys can submit another one because I have another whole place for another. So I'm just going to start it. Zion needs to humbly, and the reason I like this one is because it kind of goes with the minor prophets. So Zion needs to humbly hear. Okay, there's not a lot of Z words, so what do you think this Z word would be? Zion needs to humbly hear. Well, that could probably fit. You'd probably have to have another M, but that would work.
Z message.
Z message. You're good on the message. Zealous in messengers. Is this pretty good or what? So Zion needs to humbly hear zealous messengers. And I like this because it kind of applies to the minor prophets. So Zephaniah means what? Yahweh has hidden treasure. Now we've got a couple of multiple choice that we had from the last class. I've updated a couple of these answers. What was the nation of Judah worshiping during this time? Anybody know without looking at the possible choices? Everything on the I guess the buffet. If you had a buffet of gods, they would be they'd have a high plate. So of course, Baal, Moloch, starry host we talked about. That's the sun and the moon and everything in the sky, and Yahweh. And so, what was the answer? All of these. Why was this a problem?
Because they should only be worshiping one Yahweh.
That's right. Now, they were worshiping Yahweh, right?
Because you can't worship Yahweh and the Son.
Because God is very jealous. So why did the Israelites, and this is one updated, Israelites or Judah worship other gods? Because they believe in these gods, because they were forced to believe, because they wanted to be like the other nations, because they didn't believe in Yahweh. And I've updated this. There's two answers now. C is yeah, C. And I updated it because Kyle had a good point. They wouldn't be worshiping these guys if they didn't kind of believe in them. So relate verse 9. So we're going to be starting with verse 9 today, I think. We might go earlier, but at least in this slide. With what we do today. In the same day I will punish all those who leap over the threshold, who fill their masters' houses with violence and deceit. What do you think? In the same day I will punish all those who leap over the threshold. What might this relate today?
Well, the New American Standard includes, and it's in italics, it's not in there, but it includes the word temple. All those who leap over the temple threshold. And so it gives the idea of those that are coming before the Lord vainly, coming before the Lord as if we came to the temple that will appease Him, but our lives and our actions aren't going to submit to Him, and the danger that they are in for that.
I like that. I didn't know that. I hadn't seen that, but that's a good point. Here's two possible explanations of jumping over the threshold. The threshold was judging iniquity to be the home of demon or demons, thus a place of danger. In Roman times, and this is how it applies today, in Roman times, this belief began the protection of carrying a bride over the threshold. The term also became a common word for robbery.
So Robbie, and you may have seen this, but there was a reference to 1 Samuel 5:5, and this is why the priests of Dagon, Philistine god, and all who enter the house of Dagon do not tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod to this day. Talking about when the Philistines captured the ark and the idol fell on its face. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
Maybe a Philistine kind of tradition.
That's why I love doing the study in the Old Testament, because of all the different things we do today or we can kind of relate to. Has a beginning. We don't know for sure if this is why people carry a bride over the threshold, but it kind of makes sense in a way. State the main theme of the prophet Zephaniah according to Zephaniah 1:7. I think this might have been our last slide that we went over the last class. The year of the Lord is far. The day of the Lord is far. The year of the Lord is near. Or the day of the Lord is near. This is pretty obvious. Yes. So be silent before the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near, because the Lord has prepared a sacrifice. He has consecrated His guest. The first part of the verse, does that sound familiar on a song we might sing? Yeah. Habakkuk 2:20, but the Lord is in His holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before Him. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Who wants to read this? For the day of the Lord is near or at hand.
All the judgments of God are at hand, whether partial or specific, as in the case of the approaching destruction of Judah, or that eventual day when Jesus Christ shall appear as the judge of all men. In the case of the destruction of Judah, it was at hand in the most immediate sense. Zephaniah's prophecy of the doom of Israel was fulfilled less than 40 years after the fall of Jerusalem and the exile. The final judgment is at hand in that it will be at the termination of the Adam's race, Romans 5:12-15, upon the earth.
And Jonathan, you want to go ahead and read that verse for us? Or verses? Yeah.
Therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men, because all sinned. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam until Moses, even over those who had not sinned in the likeness of the offense of Adam, who is a type of him who was to come.
So, with Zephaniah, when he prophesied the destruction of Judah and all these other nations surrounding, I'm pretty sure he thought it was immediate. But with our God, knowing everything, knowing the past, present, and the future, do you think he might have had another judgment in mind when it came to some of these? The day of the Lord is near at hand.
Yeah, I think it's probable that a lot of this points towards a future judgment as kind of a dual meaning, a now but not yet sort of fulfillment. But I also think that this language is also in some ways figurative. He talks about basically removing everything from the face of the earth earlier in the chapter. And the Jews, you go read Ezekiel. When they learn that the temple is fallen, it's as if our whole world has been destroyed. And I wonder if that's also part of the idea. Babylon becomes the power. They rule the world. So every nation has fallen to Babylon. So it may be a sense in which this is figurative language that is pointing towards Babylon's essential worldwide empire. I mean, we would recognize that there were nations outside of Babylon's control, but in the mind of a Jew, that was it. It's that they owned the world. But I think there is a sense in which this has a future message as well.
Well, for me, looking at this and knowing that God fulfilled all these different prophecies as far as, taking Israel first and then, of course, Judah, and then all the surrounding nations and how some of these nations were prophesied that they would disappear forever. Assyria being one of those nations, disappeared forever to where you would never know there was a nation there. To know that God is going to fulfill that, and then he says, especially in the New Testament, that the Lord's going to come like a thief in the night, that I would have faith that that's going to happen as well. Sometime, Jesus is going to come back. This is not a wish. This is a promise. And so this kind of, for me anyway, kind of solidifies the fact that Jesus is going to follow through on that promise of final judgment. So what two things did the Israelites think the day of the Lord would be like? Would it be a day the Lord defeats all their enemies? A day the Lord will judge Israel for their sins? A day of the Lord would be a victorious day of gladness? The day of the Lord would be a very dark day for Israel. Which one of those did the Israelites think would be the day of the Lord? There's two choices.
A and C.
So a day the Lord will defeat their enemies, yes, they really believe that. And also, C is correct. What did I put back under D? Anyway, C is correct. The day of the Lord would be a victorious day of gladness. So they saw the day of the Lord as a good thing, right? They found out it wasn't. The Jews regarded Judgment Day as a personal triumph for themselves over the Gentile enemies. The Jews still kind of believe that, right? That they're going to have a Messiah come back and, I guess, restore the temple, and that would be in Jerusalem, I would think, and that God's going to reign again in the temple. They're still thinking that's going to happen. So they didn't learn from past history. Now, describe the following a cartoon, or describe what's happening. And I showed this in the first 6 minor prophets. Anybody remember that? It's been a while. It's been almost 2 years. So what's going on in this? We can pretty obviously see that there's several animals. I just found out that we have bears not too far away from where we live. I'm not sure about the lions. And then serpents. We do have copperheads. Saw one this summer. So this is the day of the Lord. This is coming from Amos 5:18 through 20. Amos 5:18 through 20 says, "Woe to you who long for the day of the Lord." Again, the Israelites thought the day of the Lord is going to be a good thing. The Lord's telling them, well, why do you long for the day of the Lord? The day will be darkness, not night. It's not going to be a good thing. It will be as through a man fled from a lion, only to meet a bear. So he's going from the fire to the frying pan, so to speak. And so he entered his house and rested his hand like he got away from the bear and the lion. He feels pretty safe in his house, only to be bitten by a snake. Will not the day of the Lord be darkness, not light, pitch dark, without a ray of brightness? So there's no escaping, right? Basically is what it's saying. There's no escaping. So what other minor prophets use the term the day of the Lord? And we have these choices, and I would assume that this would be Amos for sure, because we just read that one. But they're all correct. And here's the verses for those four. Obadiah, for the day of the Lord is near. Upon all the nations that you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. So it's not like the Israelites hadn't been warned years before about this day. And it's not going to be a good day. It says in Amos again, woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. Why would you have the day of the Lord? It's darkness, not light. Malachi, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. And then Joel, last for the day of the Lord is near, and its destruction from the Almighty it comes. And it came. And it's going to be coming. Some other references, the major prophets, if you want to jot those down, as Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and they're all, again, talking about the day of the Lord.
That telling us that we shouldn't be looking forward to the day of the Lord?
Well, no, I think we should be. I think this was pertaining to the Israelites. But if you're not ready, like it, if you're not ready, it's going to come like a thief in the night. If you're not ready, that's going to be a bad day. You know, it's going to be a very bad day. I watch a lot of YouTube podcasts on some of the apologists and who they're debating. And a lot of people, you know, just basically don't, I think they believe in something that's, you know, a little higher than them, but they can't put a label. They don't want to put the label Yahweh or God because, you know, that's too silly for a lot of people. But they believe in something. You know, they're good people. They believe in something. They don't know quite what it is. And so they go through their lives thinking, well, you know, I guess I'm going to be okay because I'm a good person and I believe in something. But when they die in their final judgment, being a good person and believing in something is not going to fly. Yes, sir.
Now, I think we can take something from the very fact that the prophets were telling the people to repent because the day of the Lord was coming. And Jesus would use that same repent for the day of the Lord is at hand. There's a way in which the day of the Lord is a good thing.
Yeah.
For those that belong to God. We need to remember that about judgment. Judgment is never, in Scripture, it is never singularly bad. It is punishment that falls upon the wicked, but it's also freedom for the oppressed. And you see that in the book of Judges oftentimes. When judgment is falling, it's to free those who have been oppressed by wickedness. So that's kind of the way that the minor prophets shape that idea of the coming judgment. You can either be wicked or you can be the oppressed. And a lot of times people, it's the same thing, the Beatitudes. Nobody goes, well, I want to be the oppressed.
Yeah.
I want to be the one that can do whatever I want. Well, then we fear the day of the Lord.
That's what Josh McKibben was talking about, right? In one of his sermons. I know that a lot of people would like the day of the Lord to come now, like right now, because they know that they've lived a life that's true to Christ. They've repented and they're trying to live a godly life, and they want the day of the Lord to come now. And if like you said, if it was in the time of Joel or Amos or some of these other minor prophets, and they were right in the sight of God, yeah, it would be a good day. I would agree. So I guess it depends on how you were living your life. It's going to be a bad day or a good day.
You could also take the Apostle John at the close of Revelation. What's he say? Come, Lord Jesus, come. Now, why? I mean, that's the day of the Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, but he is longing for it because he's tired of where he is and he wants to be where God is. Yeah. That's oppression that's being set free.
Yeah, good point. So here's a couple of New Testament, when we referred to these already. First Thessalonians, for you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night, and 2 Peter 3:10, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. And I have this question. I think we might have answered it, but anybody want to further comment on the difference between the Old and New Testament Day of the Lord? Is there a difference?
There's a difference in the way that these verses speak about it. There's a difference between the finality of them. I mean, all the days of the Lord were the ending of nations, the ending of kingdoms. And this is the ultimate ending of the kingdom of man, the kingdom of Satan, and the coming eternal reign and vision of the heavenly kingdom. But you also have Acts 2, which is a picture of the day of the Lord. That's very different from both the Old and these New Testament references. But it's also the same idea, the ending of the kingdom and the coming of another kingdom.
Thank you. What is meant by the people of Canaan in verse 11? I have some choices here. There were still Canaanites living in Jerusalem. The Israelites had become like the Canaanites. The Canaanites were getting ready to take over Jerusalem. And the Canaanites were now God's chosen people. So, anybody like anything else? Because that's pretty much the answer. On that day, declares the Lord, there will be a sound of a cry from the fish gate, a wail from the second quarter, and a loud crash from the hills. Well, O inhabitants of Mortar, for the people of Canaan will be silenced. All who weigh out silver will be cut off. And so the Israelites had become like Canaan. And what do we know about Canaan before the Israelites took over the Promised Land? They were good people. They were pretty bad, and the Israelites were supposed to do what to everyone who lived in the Promised Land were to what? Totally wipe them out. And now the people had become just like the Canaanites. And I look at our country today, and I'm not going to say that one generation was a whole lot better than some other generations. But I do know this country was founded as a Christian nation. And pretty much, I think the majority of people up until recently believed in God and had some type of religious life. The percentages are going down every year since the last 20 years. So it's almost like our country's becoming just like all the nations that were worshiping other gods or wasn't worshiping. Well, I think in ancient times. Yes. Most people believed in some type of God, right? I don't think atheism was a big thing when it came to the ancient times. But today, that's like a badge of honor almost, to be an atheist. It's like a badge of honor because you're enlightened. So I just think our country is becoming more, just like the other nations. I know that Europe, was a pretty religious countries, but they've all kind of gone secular in their belief. And I think the United States is Does this make sense? Becoming more secular in their belief. So we're becoming like the other nations ourselves, in a sense. And we just explained that. Zephaniah 1:12. And it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles and punish the men that are settled on the lees. I think this was our opening verse. They say in their heart, the Lord will not do good, neither will he do evil. So what are the lees?
Places.
Yes, it's going to mean that, but the lees itself means,
Your haunches.
what's that?
Like a dog that sits back on its haunches. I've heard
I mean, there could be numerous, descriptions for lees. There's a specific description in this case that I've researched. It's pretty fascinating. Should we be settling on the lees, you think?
similar to resting on your laurels.
Resting, which is complacency. Yep.
The idea
I think.
laurels are victory crown. Yeah. You rest on your past victories and don't press on.
Maybe they got laurels from. Is it laurels?
Laurels.
From the lees. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't research that. Well, here's a deep dive. Anybody want to read that?
It is an expression resulting from line leading. Lees are what we call dregs, particularly of solid matter that fall to the bottom of the vat, jar, or pot during fermentation. Back in ancient Israel, they liked to leave their wine on the lees to make it stronger, but there was a time limit on how long they could leave it. Good wine left on its lees became stronger, more flavorful, but it left too long and became thick and syrupy. Put it bluntly, it would be ruined. So a diligent winemaker would regularly pour the wine from one vat to another, straining off.
So, what does it mean? Punish the men that settled on the lees. What do you think?
Got lazy.
Lazy. Going back to what Karen said, complacent, lazy.
New American Standard quotes, it changes that pretty significantly, although it has literally means thickening on their lees, but it quotes it as, or translates as, we are stagnant, who are stagnant in spirit.
They got comfortable where they was at.
Comfortable. And so if you're comfortable, if you're complacent, if you're, pretty much settled, then it's kind of like going back to, and I think I have some verses, again, going back to Amos. They were pretty complacent. They were pretty rich at the time, too. They were very complacent. They had their couches where they would be fed grapes. You have that image of, these kings being fed grapes and having someone fan them. Kind of in that sense. And the Israelites had become that as well. They become pretty lazy, taking things for granted. So this is, again, where it's found. They settled on the lees. Kyle, you want to read this?
Those who are settled on their lees say, the Lord will not do good, nor will he do evil. They believe in God's existence, but they limit his ability to participate in their lives. They think he is powerless to do anything good or evil. This is similar to the thought expressed by the Laodiceans in Revelation 3, verse 17. I am rich, have become wealthy, and have need of nothing. Neither one needs God, they think. This attitude produces idleness, complacency, indifference, spiritual carelessness, and destruction, as Zephaniah 1:13 shows. Zephaniah 1:13 says, therefore their goods shall become a booty, and their houses a desolation. They shall also build houses, but not inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. Very interesting. That's exactly what he says in Canaan, too. That Israel is going to go and take houses they didn't build and enjoy vineyards that they didn't plant. And I said the same thing about Israel.
So a lot of people build up wealth in their lives, and they have, they had their regular house, but then they have maybe a winter house in Florida, maybe a summer house in Maine. And they have all these different other toys. And then life starts to happen, and maybe they go through a divorce, and half of that is gone, and then maybe they get caught up in some substance abuse. And eventually, long story short, they have all this stuff, but it's going to go for nothing, right? It's going to go for nothing. And I know that they were building these houses, like Kyle said, and they're not going to inhabit them. You go through your whole life trying to gain wealth and build houses or whatever, have houses other places, and all of a sudden things happen and it's for naught. So what was the purpose? What was the purpose? If that's your purpose, then it's pretty shallow. So going back to some of the other descriptions for other verses or other translations: complacent, settle down comfortably, stagnant in spirit, rest smugly on their drags. None of this sounds good, does it? Why does this sound familiar? Do we have people like that today? Even within the church, maybe? They become complacent, and then, they just, they're good. They're not doing evil, but they're not harming anybody, and they're good. So it's going back to what it says in the Revelations. That one church was what? Lukewarm. And what's God going to do? Spew them out. It's either be hot or be cold, but don't be on the fence, basically. So, gold and silver, good or bad? Your thoughts? What? It's not bad. Who has gold in here? Of some sort. Who has silver? So it's not bad, but can it? I'm sorry. It's not bad, but can it be bad? Yeah, sure it can. So Zephaniah 1:18 says, "Neither the silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath." Other verses that kind of talk about silver and gold, or just riches in general. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Ezekiel 7:19, they will throw, and this sounds very familiar, they will throw their silver into the streets, and their gold will be treated as an unclean thing. The silver and gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. It's not satisfy their hunger or fill their stomachs, for it was caused them to stumble into sin. And then a New Testament verse, Matthew 16:26, for what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Which I think I talked a little bit about how a lot of people just gather up stuff. They can gain the whole world, but what's it worth if you lose your own soul? So is the silver and gold going to save the Israelites? Especially if God has forecast a judgment, and he's pretty upset about your behavior. It's not going to profit. You can have all the silver and the gold in the world. You're not going to buy your way out of this. So this goes back to Amos. Preached against the rich, opposing the poor. The prophets criticize those whose wealth leads them to abandoning working for the common good, and who gave up any sense of responsibility for their neighbors. Amos connects slothful wealth and oppression when he accuses the idle rich of wrongdoing, violence, and robbery. God will bring a swift end to the wealth of such people. God will tear down their winter house as well as their summer house and the house of ivory. Amos levels a condemning blast against the luxuries of those who are at ease in Zion. They are first in termination. He observed that they lounge on their couches and sing idle songs to the sound of a harp. When God punishes blank, they will be the first to go into exile. And who is the blank, or what is the blank? Northern Kingdom, right? Winter houses, summer houses, houses of ivory. Did the Israelites have a lot of wealth at this time? We're talking a couple hundred years before Zephaniah. They had a lot of wealth, and they were pretty comfortable. And I think the reason that God was so upset at this time was because it's not bad to have wealth. I guess you can have a winter house, summer house. But what were they doing that God was not very happy about?
Taking advantage of those that had nothing.
Yeah, they were cheating. They would actually have scales where they could cheat people that were less fortunate so they could gain more. And so they were pretty much oppressing the poor. And I guess that's the message for us today, that if we're very comfortable and we have brothers and sisters in need, then we should be willing to help those brothers and sisters in need. Yes, sir.
You know, something that's interesting in going back to verse 12, when they say that God will do no evil and he will do no good. That puts their view of God on par with their idols. Their idols could do nothing good for them. Their idols could do nothing bad for them in reality. Whether they believed that they might or not, they had no ability. So they viewed God the same way that they view their idols. It was not uncommon for them to cover their idols in gold and silver. And while all of this is absolutely correct, and I think you can see, especially in Amos, but I think you can see it in Zephaniah as well, that he condemns the marketplace people in those verses. That would put a strong emphasis on what you're talking about with the unjust scales. What leads to that, if not the diminishing of God from where he belongs as the producer of truth and morality, the one true God over all creation, to nothing more than just an idol, like everything else. And so it may even be that he says your gold and silver will not protect you. Your idols are not going to protect you, which would include God. God is nothing more than an idol to them at this point.
So you're saying that they were putting all gods on the same level, including Yahweh?
It seems to be part of their character. They see him the same as everything else. But it would explain what led them to treat the poor the way that they did. Is they stopped elevating God and his words to anything more than Baal, Molech, Ashtaroth. They all are the same. And so if we do that, and we still continue to do that, we elevate things of this life to a position that only God deserves, or we bring God down and say the same thing. Then don't be surprised when our society falls into the same place.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It seems like so much that, they're worshiping whatever the God of the week and our, obsession with kind of the health and wealth doctrine in the modern world comes from the same place of changing God from someone who we serve to someone we want to serve us. It's what have you done for me? What can this deity do for me, rather than what service do I owe to them?
That's a good point. That's the mindset of a lot of people. I'm going to go to the church we talked about this church of our choice because it tickles our ears. Do you plan on doing anything other than attending? You're going to help the poor? No, I'm good, but at least I'm going somewhere. It's a pretty, prideful type of attitude. To put God on the same level, or to treat God as he's just another God, or he's not that important. It's just something on my bucket list of things I want to do in my life. So I have Amos prophesied around 755 BC. Did they listen to Amos? Did they repent? They did not. How do we know? 722 BC. And that date corresponds to when the northern kingdom was taken over by who? The Syrians. And were they ever established again?
Gone.
They're gone forever.
Yes, sir.
We're almost out of time. I'm just going to go ahead, and it says remember the highlighted words. So basically, I have some fill in the blank here. Here's the highlighted words, those 4 D words. So the great day described is equal a day that is what? Near, and hastens quickly, a day of devastation, desolation, darkness, and distress, a day in which silver and gold cannot deliver one from the Lord's wrath. Before the day of the Lord's
Judgment.
Oh, there's your answers right there. I have highlighted words again. Wrath comes upon them to seek the Lord, to seek righteousness, to seek humility. Perhaps you will be sheltered on the day of the Lord's anger. And we didn't get as far as I wanted to. We are going to get into Nahum on Wednesday, but we will finish up because we still have a couple more chapters. We might have to spend at least half the class. There's some kind of important points I want to go over on those 2 chapters, but we will at least get a start into Nahum on Wednesday. So if you want to read ahead, chapters 2 and 3, Zephaniah, and Nahum. Thank you very much.